Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live. And as they say on that terribly old and worn out and not so funny show anymore, Saturday Night Live, live from New York. Well, actually, we're more or less live. We'll be on some tape, some live, because we're going to an event tonight for Frank Morano, who is running for the city council in Staten Island. Frank was, for many years, the all-night host on WABC radio, and a truly talented, superb, knowledgeable guy, a true, solid, sensible, tough Republican conservative, and a very articulate voice. And since the New York City Council has only 5, at the most 6 Republican members out of 51, they have to all be good, and they are all good. They are, they stand out, really. And even though they get outvoted all the time, they have the majority of America on their side. For example, of course, they opposed non-citizens voting, which this insane communist city council voted on. That has been now declared unconstitutional. Think about this. You sit on the city council of New York, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the United States and New York. The Constitution of New York has qualifications for citizens. One of the qualifications is for voting. One of the qualifications is you have to be a citizen to vote in New York. The city council is in New York. It's a subdivision of the state of New York. They took an oath to uphold it. They voted unanimously to allow non-citizens to vote in complete, utter disrespect for the Constitution of New York, which they spit at. Now, the courts actually overruled that, but there were a couple of Democrat, completely hack judges. You get out of New York and the Democrat judges aren't so bad. It's in New York City that they tend to be political hacks because they get appointed in a very, very corrupt process in which they pretend to get elected. But since there's only one party, there's only one person on the ballot. So hence, the person selecting you is the Democratic county leader. Their history, I'm not going to accuse any particular one right now because I don't know, but their history is 150 to 170 years of corruption, particularly in the appointment of judges. And their history is they can get judges to do what they want. And strangely, in political cases, it almost always comes out that way, even when it's absurd. And 1 or 2 times when it doesn't, they change the court. So a lot has to be done before New York can become an American honest city. It's never been that. Occasionally a Republican like me or LaGuardia comes along and we straighten it out for a short period. Mine lasted a little longer because Bloomberg continued it for 8 to 12 years. But de Blasio switched it immediately. Boom, right back to crooked city, crooked city. Adams is sort of out of the Democratic Party now. So but they still have control of all of those court appointments because of the ballot. Well, you see behind me, of course, and we have it again as our background, the Vatican City, because still the eyes of the world are on Vatican City. That'll probably be true through Saturday. There'll then be, I believe it's a 8 or 9 day period of mourning. So probably next week, there'll be a lot of talk among the cardinals, not all of whom, but most of whom are there. But it'll all be private. There won't be many ceremonies. And then it'll reignite with the eyes of the world on it when the vote starts, which could be a week from Monday. My guess, I'm guessing. No leaks yet. No, I'm just guessing based on the earliest time they could start it. The fact that I don't think they need much preparation for this one. Cardinals have for some time been aware of the fact that the Pope was near the end. And therefore, I'm sure leaving themselves the opportunity to leave in a 3 or 4 day period. So there's an interesting issue that's arisen that makes it sound like New York City, Chicago, makes the papers. He's like New York City or Chicago. There is a card. Now, you know, there are two groups of cardinals, right? Group number one of all cardinals, right? They're all named by a pope. But in order to vote, you have to be less than 80 years old. I just went to the Vatican, and I was told I had a question for the bishop, a wonderful bishop who gave me, I don't have him in my pocket. I have him inside. I'll take him out later. The rosary beads of the man that he worked for, Pope John Paul II. I have his pair of rosary beads blessed by him. As I walk around New York City, I carry them with me all the time. I hold the rosary beads with my left hand, and I have my right hand ready. I grew up here. So they got a crooked cardinal problem. Can you believe this? This is very embarrassing. I mean, there are. Can we look at a chart so we explain it to everybody? That's a chart of the cardinals. It's a little complex, but if you go down to the one at the very bottom, okay, which says maybe I can make the bottom bigger. Again, that's the bottom. Those are the popes those are the cardinals presently in existence. Okay, so it's 138, and the ones in the black boxes are appointed by Pope Francis. So, for example, in Latin America, he's appointed all but 3. In the U.S. and Canada, he's appointed 1/3. In Africa, he's appointed all but 3. In Asia, he's appointed all but 3. In Oceania, he's appointed all of them. And even in Europe, he's appointed about 60%. So these are Pope Francis designees. This is the group that can vote. There's an almost equal number there's almost an equal number in the group that cannot vote, who are 80 years or over. They can be there. They can consult outside of the conclave. Conclave means lock with key. Conclave, Latin. I can use it now. It means that they're the cardinals behind the key. The other cardinals are outside the key, but they all stay at the Santa Martha retreat, which looks like quite a nice AAA, somewhere between a AAA and 4A hotel. Not a luxury hotel, but not just a traveler's hotel. It's a nice place, but it has to hold all the cardinals, and they will be there. And I tell you, that's where it's going to get decided. In those discussions at Santa Martha's residence, which have probably already started, when they get together in country groups, continent groups, cross-discipline groups, it'll be the kind of conversation you'd have, except these men are extraordinary. First of all, they're extraordinary. They are much better educated than the average human being in Europe, America, Asia, Africa, any place. These are all postgraduates. Just to become a priest, you've got to do 4 years after college. But to be a bishop and an archbishop and a cardinal, you almost certainly have other degrees, could be even temporal rather than spiritual. And of course, the top contenders are amazingly multilingual. As you know, the last couple of popes have been amazingly multilingual. Well, Cardinal Giovanni and Angelo Bicciu was convicted. He's 76. So Cardinal Bicciu qualifies to vote. However, he's convicted by the Vatican. Convicted by a Vatican tribunal. He was ordered to serve a 5.5-year prison sentence and personally ordered by Pope Francis to resign the rights and privileges of his position in 2020. Now, he was a very high-ranking cardinal. He was the sostituto Sostituto. He was the substitute for the Secretary of State. In other words, he was assistant to the Secretary of State, which also takes on the dual function of being the chief of staff to the Pope. So he was chief of staff to Pope Francis for a period of time. He was accused of, and I guess convicted, of using Vatican funds to bribe witnesses in the sex abuse trial of his rival, Cardinal George Pell. Now he starts to sound a bit like a Democrat. He was bribing witnesses to frame Cardinal George Pell, not to get him off, according to the case. Now, he denies it. But there were witnesses who said he was bribing them to offer testimony, false testimony, against George Pell, Cardinal George Pell. He wired more than $800,000 to help sway the testimony against Pell's case. Charges he vehemently denies. He's in the process of appealing his fraud trial. And he is still allowed, because he's on process of appeal, to stay in his Vatican apartment. The press has him listed as a non-elector. It's not certain that he's a non-elector. There's no rule one way or the other. So this is going to fall to the highest ranking cardinal, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, who is the dean of the College of Cardinals. He's like the president pro tempore of the Senate. He's the not the highest ranking, he's the eldest cardinal. Remember, Cardinal Pietro Parolin is the Secretary of State. He would have technically been his assistant, but he worked directly for the Pope. So I don't know how much he really was his assistant, because it doesn't seem to have rubbed off on Parolin. Sounds like he might have worked separately from him. Parolin is one of the 5 top candidates for the papacy. And Parolin is one of the 3 people most responsible for running the Vatican right now. Officially, that goes to an Irish-American cardinal named Farrell, who was the cardinal who comes from Ireland, born in Ireland, but was the cardinal several places in America, including in Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas. But you've seen him. He's the one who conducted the ceremonies yesterday. He's the one, if you saw that very intense, dramatic ceremony when they locked the doors of the papal apartment and put the burning seal on it and crushed the ring, he did all of that. And he is technically the acting pope. But the 3 of them together really have different powers. Cardinal Ray will be in charge of, he'll be the official chairman of the conclave. And Cardinal Parolin, who's the Secretary of State, will be, of course, functioning as he normally does with all outside countries, and at a time in which most heads of state are coming here. The man who is one of the 5 candidates for cardinal is going to be very busy at his job as Secretary of State. So it's a very interesting period, and we'll see what they decide. Now, Pope Francis, although he never, I don't think, gave an opinion on the Betchu case, he did a lot to try to straighten out and regularize the handling of Vatican funds, including changing. He sort of did a doge on that, and even conservatives who want to be fair-minded, who oppose him because they think he was too progressive on certain issues. Most people, fair-minded people, give him great credit for having done as good a job as you could do on getting the Vatican financial area under the best shape possible. This prosecution is probably one of those, because he had the law change to allow for sentences to be handed down by the Vatican Tribunal, and it handed him a 5.5-year sentence. So, I mean, that's a lot better you're going to do with Soros DAs I mean, this guy would like to come in New York and get tried by Bragg, and they put him out on the street. They put him in charge. They throw out our cardinal and put him in so he could steal some money, give him a couple of months stealing money from St. Patrick's. Now, that's unfair because he may be innocent. I don't know. He is on appeal. And it seems like a very heavily contested case. But it is a strange charge. I've got to ask some of my priest friends, including Alan and Father Pavone, and have they ever heard of a case of a priest doing a kind of Hillary Clinton? I mean, Hillary Clinton paid more. I will say that. Hillary Clinton, this guy put up allegedly 800 grand to frame his enemy Cardinal Pell. Hillary put up 1.1 million for the phony Steele dossier to frame Trump. So Hillary, and it's always suspected that others put in a lot more money, but at least a bare minimum of 1.1. I have to imagine that this, and I say this with great sympathy for him, because look, that to a very large extent, I disagreed with the Pope on certain issues, like really probably more than anything else, China, where he and Paroline, the Secretary of State, it seemed to me appeased China way too much in the selection of Catholic bishops. I mean, they should just keep their damn hands off the selection of Catholic bishops. Any confusion about that is like selling out the integrity of the church. Now, I know there are arguments, and I'd like to find someone to make them so you can hear them, because I have a hard time making them in good faith, that it could lead to the death of people in China, but they're killing Catholics in China anyway. I just don't think that's correct. I wish the Pope had asked me for advice. I mean, I know how to deal with criminals better than he does. And the answer is stand up to bullies and you push them back. Let them have a piece of your appointment process and they give you 10 years of trouble, the way China has had with, and there are a lot of cardinals opposed to it and a lot of candidates that would change it. Unfortunately, Cardinal Paroline, who is an Italian choice, is very left-wing on this issue of dealing with China. Immigration also very left. So, but let's look at Pope Francis one more time at a happier moment. There he is, the first Pope from the Americas. There he is looking at what looks to me like the Holy Spirit. Look at a beautiful smile on his face. The man was the product of, I believe, Pope and maybe Saint someday, Francis, but I do think you were brainwashed by liberation theology, and I forgive you. But I do think you couldn't possibly have been more devoted to the poor, which, after all, is one of Jesus's major admonitions and advice on how to get to heaven. You know, whatever you've done to the least of my brethren, you've done to me. You ignore them, you've ignored me. You help them, you've helped me. Well, he sure as hell didn't ignore them. And he's got a church, I think, that's more sensitive to that. It's more sensitive to the irresponsible use of the church's great wealth, which is why you get a guy prosecuted with 5.5 years in jail. I don't know where some big shot Italian cardinal would have had that happen, 20, 30 years ago. So there are, when you review the history, this is yesterday, bringing his body from the St. Martha residence, where he was lying, not really in state, but more like awake, where he is now being brought, and he's there now, of course, at the Vatican. So he will be lying in state continuously until Saturday at 3 a.m. our time, when the preliminaries of the Mass will start. That's what it looks like. Now, quite beautiful, right? And quite ornate. You cannot believe how scaled down that is by this very humble Pope from the ceremonies that used to exist. Now, even the last couple of popes have ad seriatim or in pieces scaled it down. So I'm going to try when I have some time, maybe tonight. I spent last night listening to all the background on the candidates, because I really want to be up on that when we start the choices. But And then I actually listened to a recitation of every pope. I'm going to confess, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. I fell asleep after Pope number 138. The popes that I'm very unclear on are the ones that succeeded Peter. And of course, the record on them is unclear. The first one where you have definite beginning and ending dates isn't until about 100 years after Christ and 100 years after Peter. But it also looks like the first 30 popes were killed. You get into about 300 something before you get a pope that lived and died a normal death. And then it started in again until Constantine in the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine, recognized the first gave them freedom because his mother, Monica, became a Catholic, Santa Monica. And so he at first created freedom of religion in the Roman Empire. And then he converted himself and made it the religion of the empire. And that's, of course, when and at that point, could be wrong, because I was listening to it as I was leaving, there were about 5 million Catholics. It grew pretty fast in 300 years. And then it took off because it got attached to the Roman Empire. And then you have various popes who spent their time, there was one pope who spent his time on the conversion of France, one on Spain. And popes at that time came from those places. They weren't necessarily all Roman. That happened later. And of course, it's changed now. So we'll see what happens with this cardinal. I assume today is Thursday. I assume the president and Mrs. Trump will be leaving tomorrow for their participation. I suspect they'll stay at the beautiful residence of the ambassador, which I have had the honor and privilege of staying at way back when I was a little baby, when I went there to negotiate for the fate of the number 2 person of the Sicilian mafia, who had been arrested in Spain by the United States and by Italy. And it was a big battle as to who would get him and how we would deal with him. And we were afraid if they took him to Italy, he'd get killed. And they were afraid if they took him to Italy, he'd be killed, but didn't want to say it. And I went and I stayed with the ambassador for 5 days over the July 4th holiday. And we negotiated and we got him, and the rest is history. I spent a great deal of time working with the Italian police, the Italian prosecutors, the Italian magistrates, including 2 who were martyred by the mafia. So we'll keep up on that, and if anything happens, overnight or tomorrow before we come back on again, we'll of course let you know. You never know what developments happen here, or both peace deals that are so important to the president are now in some. It's very interesting. There are 3 areas now that one could say are in undecided, of great importance to the administration: Ukraine, Middle East, trade and tariffs. Now, we look at their successes, out and out successes. On immigration, unbelievable and unrealistic. I am telling you quite sincerely, I would have been satisfied if they were about halfway to where they are right now. Like they had cut it by 30 or 40% by now, not 80, 90%, or have moved along the process of getting rid of these people. I know it's run into legal problems, but you're just going to leave them all here if you don't take on those legal problems. So the people who are blaming Trump for having caused the legal problems, well, yeah, you want to keep all of Trans-Nicaragua and MS-13 and similar mobs here, fine, don't have the legal problems. But if you throw them out, somehow the Democratic Party automatically becomes on the side of all criminals, like they are in states where they all get released to kill you. Here in New York, this one is one of the worst, starting with Andrew Cuomo, who's running for mayor and is the leading candidate. He's probably the guy who did the most to make this city unsafe, more than de Blasio, more than Hochul, certainly more than Adams. the laws that put somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 hardened criminals on the street that I can guarantee you, I can walk the streets and point them out to you, that I would have in jail. They're the ones who, beat the hell out of 7 or 8 people last night. I didn't even bother to look at the crime reports today. They were horrible. When I did New York radio, I used to do it every day. Now I look at it still, but I don't. We do a national show, so I reported if it's a crime of national significance. If I were to report all the crimes in New York, we spend the whole show talking about the crimes in New York. We're similarly in Chicago. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at
I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York.
Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And thank you, Frank. That was a very nice rendition. And you were watching the west side of Manhattan, the part leading to Lincoln Center, from Columbus Circle to Lincoln Center. At the very, very top of it, where you see the white building, the last white building, not all that high, that's Lincoln Center right there. Right there. You can see some of the structure of the Avery. You're either looking at the Avery Fisher Hall or Juilliard. I can't tell with that tree there. But then it comes into a square, and on one side is Avery Fisher Hall, on the other side is the New York Theater, and then right in the center is the grand structure of the New York Metropolitan Opera. I believe at this point the greatest opera house in the world, without doubt, and with 2 magnificent original paintings from Chagall, ceiling to ceiling. It got to be one of the most beautiful parts of America and the cultural center of America. You have not made it as an opera singer until you sing on the stage of the Metropolitan, even if you sang at La Scala. Scala is 2/3 as big as the Met. If you can sing, there are tenors who can do very, very well at La Scala, and they come to the Met and they got to do a little screaming and make it to the end of the great tenors like Pavarotti or Domingo, my era, or you can go back to Delmonico and Caruso and Corelli. Their lungs were big enough so they could remain beautiful and lyrical. Whereas if your lungs are weaker, in order to make it that last third or quarter, you got to scream. You literally, and you hear it. You hear the voice become harsh. And the tenor voice occasionally needs to be harsh, but usually it has to be lyrical and beautiful, even for a dramatic tenor, who is probably the most difficult voice to have, to hit the high notes and still have the volume. Easier for a baritone or a bass because the volume of their voice begins very, very big. And of course, easier for the men than the women. But
That's right, Mayor. And we just heard from Frank Sinatra. So we want to go from one Frank to another very special Frank. We have on the line here via video chat Frank Morano, a lifelong Staten Islander, a fellow radio man, and a candidate for city council. Frank, welcome to the show.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mayor. I'm excited to see you a little bit later. And I got to tell you, I've learned a lot from you about leadership. I've learned a lot from you about public service. I learned a lot from you about integrity. I never imagined that America's Mayors Live would be the show that I would be tuning into to learn about not only opera, but lung capacity. I had no idea about the intricacies of La Scala and that other opera house and baritones and tenors. My goodness, I should know better than to be around you when I don't have a notepad. My goodness.
Frank, you are a remarkable candidate for the city council. I endorse you, and I endorse you. I remember there were some people that would say, I'm going to give you this extra special endorsement when I was running. I'm going to give you the extra special endorsement. You are a real treasure. And, people will say, gee, the New York City Council, what is it, 45-6 or something like that? So how can you actually become very important as a result of that? Your 6 voices have to be really good. And you get called on a lot because so much controversial happens. And you're going to be a hell of an addition. I mean, you are already quite versed at having. Tell them the show you did. I mean, it was one of the leading shows in New York. I don't know how the hell you did it, but.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we were #1 in our time slot overnights, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. In the city that doesn't sleep, the people that like to stay up late and not sleep, they did so with me. #1 on every format, AM or FM. And part of that was because we had such a good lead in with what you were doing in the afternoon. You grew the audience to such a point that the whole cume of the radio station was astounding. But first of all, thank you for your support. It means a great deal to me. Yours was the endorsement that I wanted more than anything. But your point about the importance of the Republicans in the city council is such an important point, and I have to emphasize it everywhere, because if you look at a lot of the nonsense that's happening in New York now, sure, there's a lot you could blame Adams for, there's a lot you could blame de Blasio for, but the real problem is the city council, because they keep passing all of this anti-cop legislation with veto-proof majorities. So a couple of times the mayor, the last 3, at least 2 of the last 3, yes, would veto anti-cop legislation, and the council would just overturn it with a veto-proof majority. What I get to do as part of the Common Sense Caucus and part of a 6-member Republican delegation is help choose the next speaker. Now, we've seen that before. Your leadership in the 1990s, you had a great partner, even though he was a Democrat, in Speaker Peter Vallone. The only reason Peter Vallone became Speaker is because Susan Molinari, the minority leader, got to cast the tie-breaking vote to make him Speaker. Imagine if she made the wrong choice. So one of the things that I get to do is, with this block of 6 or 7 other moderate-minded people and conservative-minded people, is we get to choose somebody that's not a extreme left-wing anti-cop DSA socialist. And I have a feeling that can make a big difference, irrespective of who the next mayor is.
Position of the city council, when you said moderate, the opposition to this city council would make you a liberal Democrat 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I think of the city council under Peter, and of course I had a speaker who worked with me as a partner. But even the composition of the council, I used to think they were crazy. I'd take them back in a minute now.
You and me both.
I mean, they just voted.
You
they
and
just
me
voted
both.
to throw immigration out of Rikers Island when Adams put them there.
It's worse. They didn't just vote; they sued.
Right.
They sued. I mean, you have a city council that is going out of its way to advertise to the world that they want no law and order and have no desire for public safety. And that's why it's so important that we get somebody like me there who's a fighter, who has energy, who understands how the levers of government works, and has the experience necessary to do the job, not some sort of neophyte that's put in there because of his family connections or his last name.
Even if somehow we get a Republican mayor or a moderate sensible Democrat, which is hard, but he's not going to be able to do anything without this. They'll do the same thing to him they did to Adams, because I don't that's
you're so right. You're so right. And you know what? If we do get a crazy left-wing speaker or a crazy left-wing mayor or somebody that has a lot of other baggage, like Andrew Cuomo, for instance, I can promise you that the center-right populists in this city, the populist New Yorkers that feel fed up about being fined to death for driving to work, being fined to death if they go a mile over the speed limit, being fined to death if they accidentally leave an eggshell in their trash, they're going to have no better spokesperson and no better mouthpiece than me. I am going to be, for the silent plurality in this city, the same sort of mouthpiece, and use this bully pulpit the way that you did for an incredibly successful 8 years in
Frank,
City Hall.
I'm very excited about this. Tell everyone, first of all, the district you're running in, and then how they can get you money, because you're in good shape, but not a shoo-in, never is in New York, and you're going to need a lot of money to do this. So what's the district, and how do we get money to you?
Mayor, it is the South Shore of Staten Island, which is the most conservative district in New York City, but we still have a very competitive special election in April. And then no matter who wins that, we're going to do it again in a Republican primary in June. And all your viewers around the country have an incredible opportunity, because there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. They can make phone calls from wherever they are, or they can kick in $10, $50. And if they're New York City residents, that's matchable 8-1. But if they support me at moranoforcouncil.com, that's MORANO for council.com, it sends a message to the rest of the city that we're not going to take this anymore, that we're fed up. And it sends a message to the rest of the country that even in places like New York, which seem a little insane, that there are still pockets of sanity and pockets of people that want New York to have the same kind of revolution in 2025 that it did in 1993.
It makes all the sense in the world. It's a much more important election than people realize. The fact that it is only 6 or 7 puts much more emphasis on it. The fact that they do things that, to sensible people, the city council I'm talking about, that appear to be crazy, like vote for a non-citizen to vote when the New York Constitution requires citizenship to vote. I mean, it's impossible to understand how they can do that. But they need voices like yours, articulate, strong, not afraid, to face the people of the city with what the contradiction they're creating. It's going to turn. It's going to turn. It may turn this time. It may turn for governor. It may turn next time. But you got to build it with strong voices like yours. You got a couple of good ones to join there. So you're going to have a nice team, and you'll be a very important part of that.
Mayor, thank you for your advice. Thank you for your mentorship. Your book, Leadership, was literally life-changing. I got my copy of your recent book, The Biden Crime Family, which I'm looking forward to reading. Your support means everything to me, and I'd rather lose with you than win with anybody else. But I got news for you. We're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. We're gonna really make a difference in the city. We're gonna make a difference in Staten Island, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've already done for me. I'm looking forward to learning from you and being your protege when it comes to public safety, governance, and everything else.
I got to tell you, you get me now the information, and we'll put it on all the time. All throughout God willing, you get past the primary, which I think you will. But that's the key one, really. But then you can't take the general election for granted either in crazy, crooked Democrat New York. So I'd like to put the numbers that people have to reach in order to get to you, because they can donate to you all over the country.
That's right. And we got the website up right now,
moranoforcouncil.com.
And we understand that. We do that now. It's in the interest of the people of the rest of the country to break through in some of these decrepit Democratic cities, crooked Democratic cities. And in New York, this is the way to break through. Maybe different in Chicago, different in Philadelphia. We got to start getting some of those cities back, or this country, it can be tough. Well,
And Mayor, you're so right. And if people watching around the country are looking for a voice for property tax reform and to stand up for the taxpayers, I'm your guy. If they're looking for somebody to stand up for the police and stand and improve the morale of the police department in the city, I'm your guy. If somebody's looking for an advocate for health choice and not wanting to lose their job because they don't want to take an experimental shot, I'm your guy. If you're looking for somebody that stands up for the taxpayer and stands up for law and order, I'm your guy. And if people want to stand with me, Morano and Rudy Giuliani, MoranoForCouncil.com is the place to go.
Morano for Council, we're going to be there tonight. We'll bring you back some stories tomorrow for sure. And then we'll keep pestering you until you make a donation. If you don't, we may cut you off.
Thank you, Mayor.
God bless you, Frank. I'll see you in a little
Thank
while.
you, Mayor. Your support means everything.
Okay.
I look forward to it. Thank you, sir.
Isn't he a refreshing candidate? Wouldn't you like to have him as a candidate for Congress or Senate or City Council in your area?
That's right, Mayor. And to our national audience, New York City truly is America's
I'm thinking of Victoria.
front yard.
Victoria's on. She represents Queens as a Republican. She's become a national figure.
That's right. So we want our audience.
Whenever they do wacko in New York, they generally go to her, and she's so articulate and tough and strong that she's all over Fox, Newsmax, One America's News, and then also sometimes she breaks through to the communist stations too.
That's right. And Frank we've known Frank for a long time.
Frank has been on radio, I guess, a dozen years. He's on. He was on all night. It makes him an expert on every one of the major issues that faces New York.
Oh, he covers it all. He
goes in. It isn't like, you say a businessman. A lot of time, a businessman is good for an executive position,
right?
But for a legislative position, you got to be up on the issues.
And he's
one of the best ways to do that is he didn't have just a show he had a really intense, fabulous all-night show. The guy has got energy like Trump and me.
And when you're on for 4 hours, you really connect with your audience.
I've been on with him at night, and I used to listen to him a lot because I stay up at night.
That's right. So we want all of our people at $5, $10. Give what you can. Support Frank Morano for City Council.
And he's giving up a lot. He was number one in that slot and beginning to get syndicated. Not a lot of people can do that.
That's right.
Not a lot of people can do that 4 or 5 hours at night.
That's right. And giving up something like that,
or do it well,
that you're truly called for public service. You got so many career politicians out there. Someone like Frank Morano, he's truly in it for the right reasons. And so we want our national audience. Look, if you're out there in Michigan, New York City, we all have heard about all these issues in New York. We have an opportunity to make a real difference getting behind Frank Morano. So please visit MoranoForCouncil.com. We'll keep sharing that. Give what you can. If you can make some phone calls, that's another great way. We know budgets are tight for some people, so we'll get you that information. 10 calls a day. You can really knock out a lot of calls too. And it's a good opportunity to really speak with other people, other Americans about the issues that matter.
Yeah, he's an exceptional opportunity. There are a lot of good Republicans running, and we'll support a lot of them. But this is going to be like one of the prime talents. And I see this as getting started in a career in politics. This guy's going to go a lot further.
Oh, that absolutely. So we'll be sticking with him and keeping people apprised. And again, for the national audience, this is an opportunity to support someone who can really make a big difference in the Big Apple, of course, the city that the mayor loves so much.
And he's up on the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning talking to people about these issues.
Well, we've all heard him. He's terrific.
I've spoke to him. I've called in and spoke to him, and he's
Rob and I and Ted all met when he started calling me on my radio show.
That's how I met. That's how I met the mayor.
That's how we met and became very close friends.
Yep.
Right. And some of us are night owls, and I can't sleep. And we'd put Frank on, and he really is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, sometimes I would listen to ABC with other people. I would either feel like or have to call and correct them. Never had to do that with him. He's right on target. He is right on target, and he's entertaining and smart, and
absolutely.
And he'll make a great leader, right? So many people.
Part of the revolution that we need. We know what Trump is engaged in, but this is something that the president can only encourage. You cannot have an effect on local elections. Bill Clinton got elected in 1992. He campaigned for my opponent, who was the incumbent, and I won. That'll give you an idea of And this is a Democratic city. So to give you an idea that the president can't control cities. The reason the cities are Democrats has nothing to do with the president. It has to do with 150 to 170 years of one of the prime things the Democrats Party has contributed to America, which is corruption. They contributed slavery and corruption. American corruption is a profession for the Democrats. It's accidental for Republicans. Or I always would say the Democrats are professionals and the Republicans, we have corruption too, but it's amateur compared to theirs because they control the big rich places. Republicans never did. And they control the places where stealing is a part of a way of life.
And I think they were guided to do it that way. By Marxists.
Yeah. Oh, and even before that. And Marxism fit really beautifully into it. Marxism compared with greed describes you a communist leader. That's why Marxism is bullshit and socialism. They're all multi-billionaires. You look at Black Lives Matter as a Marxist organization. The first thing they did is start stealing money. You look at all the black politicians who represent the poor areas that have been poor for 50 years, even though they've gotten, trillions of dollars, and the money has ended up with the politicians, white and black.
Ocasio-Jello for brains, right? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't she at one point advocating that we should eliminate airlines? But yet she's flying around on private planes every minute now. Everybody forgot about that already.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
she wants to be president.
Yeah, I mean, she's more popular than Schumer. Well, I mean, that's Schumer's fault. I mean, Schumer has become a rat. I mean, a rat in the sense of turning on his own people. So I said the president, trying to put this in the context so we can discuss the rest of it and then we'll take a break. But the president is very, very solid on certain things and moving ahead, way ahead of schedule. He is on immigration, both at the border and returning. And the returning part's hard, but he's pushing that. He's got court problems, but he's still pushing it and he keeps going. And he has to. He has no time to lose. I mean, we don't know how many criminals we've brought into this country. And since, we have no idea how many the Democrats are going to try to bring back, I have no idea what that political party is thinking. With spending all this money trying to bring back this MS-13 woman beater, gang member. I mean, every day a new fact comes out. Now he was caught driving two of the leaders around. A big report on it. Oh, but he's described as a Maryland man. Guy's from El Salvador. He's not from Maryland. But in any event, president's doing terrific on that. He's doing great on getting the regulations under control. I mean, boy, he is just paring down regulations. He is bringing in records amount of investment in the country, way beyond what is being assessed, because people are looking at the tariff controversial part. They're not looking at the amount of money people are putting in, a lot of it to avoid tariffs, but haven't even put in place yet. But a lot of it also to show confidence in Trump and his ability to guide this economy. And there are a number of other areas. I think Kennedy is off to a good start in doing something that maybe is even more difficult, trying to get us back into a healthy situation. We're a country that spends more money on health and is one of the most unhealthy countries. We're a country that spends more money in education than anyone, and we're becoming one of the most poorly educated countries. Every year we drop in standings, and every year we go up in money spent. It's almost in inverse proportion. The more money we spend, the worse our children do in public school. And he's on his way to changing that. He's on his way to straightening out our upper education system that has been Marxized. Marxized is not a word, but it's been infected by Marxism, or if you want to recognize it in a different anti-American hatred and virulent anti-Jewish hatred. I mean, it's what Harvard is doing right now is ridiculous. We were up in Harvard a year ago. I mean, they hate Jewish people. Anti-Semitic may be too complex a word. They hate Jewish people. They hate religious people to start with, but they hate Jewish people most of all. It's a sick university. And so are most of the Ivy Leagues. And he's making real progress there. There are 3 areas that are now creating some degree of confusion, including among his supporters, because I looked very carefully at the opinions of the people who would normally be Republican supporters and Trump supporters. And on those subjects that I just mentioned, he has all of them, and he's got lots of independents and Democrats. Here's where we've got bridges to cross: tariffs, Ukraine, Middle East. So let's start with Ukraine. Ukraine, right now, it honestly looks that neither one of them wants to make peace. It looks like Trump wants to make peace. It doesn't look like. Trump wants to make peace, to his credit. Isn't that a wonderful thing? We have a president who wants to make peace, and we should get upset about that. The problem is we got 2 scoundrels here. We got one that's much worse than the other. And in terms of his perception of his criticism is in inverse proportion to the evil nature of the person he's talking about. Zelensky is not by any means without blame here. Zelensky was a very unfortunate choice to be running Ukraine at this time. You couldn't have picked a guy who's more of a creature of a crooked oligarch and the oligarch system, crooked system of stealing money, so that when Americans are worried about the money they spent there, they should be. I mean, the guy was made by the most crooked oligarch in Ukraine. You know, that doesn't change. The guy made him a multimillionaire, if not a billionaire. He's not done a damn thing to straighten it out. He's done nothing about all the evidence that he has of prior corruption that could have recovered billions of dollars for his country. And he wouldn't have to go around the world like a beggar. By protecting that oligarchical system, he's screwing his people. The people that suffer are the people the money's supposed to go to. It's a little bit like the American inner cities, where you go back to the Great Society and the Obama expenditures and the Biden expenditures, and you say to yourself, "My God, if Harlem ever got the money it was entitled to, it would be Monaco." Well, I mean, unfortunately, on the way to Harlem, it went into Charlie's hands and Dinkins' hands, and I mean, Dinkins walked out one day with his secretary and said, "We just became millionaires." He became millionaires because of a vote that he made on the New York City Council. I mean, this is just one example. And if we're crooked in New York, and we are, and we have been since Barr's tweet, we're amateurs compared to Ukraine. Ukraine is indeed in the top 10 corrupt countries in the world, if not top 5. Everyone knows it, including Democrats, except they shut up about it because a lot of them are using it as a cash cow. And Zelensky's very much a part of it. And there's no possible way that the country can flourish under a guy who's in the hands of crooks like he is. Well, that's one part of it. The other part of it is Putin runs as crooked a country as Zelensky does, possibly more, possibly less, very close. But Putin is also a stone cold killer. I came to that conclusion the first time I met him. And I said it the first time I had a chance to say it to President Bush. I had a different impression of him. I said, I looked into his eyes and I saw a stone cold killer. I dealt with 50 of these people like this. Dealt with people who, chopped up 50 bodies, killed 13 people. You can see it you can see it in his eyes. The guy is a stone cold killer. He has no regard for human life, which is why he's continuing this war now when he doesn't have to. In fact, since Zelensky's done everything he can to prolong this as well, neither one of them give a damn about the lives of the Ukrainians and the Russians. The only one who cares about them is Donald J. Trump. But right now, the strategy doesn't appear to be working. It doesn't make sense it does make sense to criticize Zelensky, and it does make sense to say you can't make peace unless he's willing to make concessions, but particularly concessions on the areas and the division of mineral rights, and because the United States has to get involved with them for two reasons: for their good and for our good. For our good, because we need those minerals to fight China. And if we lose to China, it doesn't matter what Russia does to Ukraine. Russia's going to be speaking Chinese. Forget Russia. I mean, and so is Ukraine. Putin has sold his soul to Xi Jinping in order to get the money to do this war. But we need those minerals. And if we're involved in a very, very substantial, massive financial investment in Ukraine, please understand the subtlety of that. That will assure the accountability of that money. And the minute you show people accountability, there's a really good chance the whole damn thing will change. You know, when they talk about wanting to be part of NATO or the EU, forget Russia. They don't qualify. They're too crooked. NATO and EU requires a certain level of integrity in a government in order to join. I remember Italy had problems because of the mafia. It's one of the reasons they did the crackdown on the mafia. I mean, they are stretching their criteria in much the same way as we take, you know, a 4'1" firefighter, and then somebody dies. Nobody's saying, gee, does Ukraine meet the standards to be part of the EU? No, it doesn't. It's too damn crooked. And Zelensky would be actually the wrong guy to lead that because he's part of that crooked machine. But the point that I'm making is that Trump has got to put equal and more responsibility on Putin. And I hope that's going to change, and I hope that's a tactic. And I do realize, and I'm not going to go into great detail on it because I think it's still a work in progress, that this is a major division on his staff. And not a major, you know, very often there are major little cheap divisions. Somebody wants credit for this, credit for that, credit for this, credit for that, credit for this. These are philosophical or political differences between, I guess, what you would call the isolationists and the interventionists. But here's the interesting part. He doesn't really have any interventionists. But he does have some very, very fierce anti-Putin, anti-communist who realize at certain points at which you can't negotiate, like Hitler. It's it's like the old song, knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. We got two situations, including the one we're going to talk about after the break, which is Iran, where we're at the point where some very tough medicine is necessary for the big wrongdoer. We get back, we're going to tell you what we think should be done to Putin. And then we're going to tell you in no uncertain terms what has to be done in Iran. And will eventually have to be done. We're just putting it off and hopefully not getting more people killed than necessary. But I know there are people urging the president to negotiate with Iran, and those people do not understand Iran the way I do. We'll be right back.
That was good. So, Mayor?
How are you? I forgot to bring the watch.
It's okay.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal, 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. So here's maybe a visual that'll show you what the disproportion is. If you look at this, this is from the Post today. Russia, you can just see almost from the number of items, Russia gets more. Russia gets formal recognition of Crimea. That's a lot because they conquered it. And since the turn of the century, last century, the Wells Doctrine, we don't accept countries that were conquered. But we also promised Ukraine, and so did Russia, that we would protect them against invasion when they gave up their nuclear weapons. That went by the boards. De facto recognition of Russia's occupation of the 4 regions. So that would be Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. We'll show you it on the map in a moment. That's everything they took. A pledge that the United States wouldn't support their entry into NATO, even if they do go through what would take 5 to 10 years of qualifying as an honest country. Lifting sanctions to boost Russia's economy. Opportunities for more economic cooperation with the U.S. So basically, Russia's given up nothing except stop killing people. They're going to stop killing people and they're going to get all these benefits. What does the Ukraine get? Assistance from European military forces who would be there as a robust security guarantee following the ceasefire. But the United States won't be there. So that's a nice security guarantee, but it's not the #1 security guarantee. They're getting their #1 objective, which is Crimea. And they're getting their complete whole free access to Crimea, which takes away 20% of Ukraine. They're not giving back any of it. They'll return a small portion near Kharkiv. Look, they never conquered Kharkiv. They're giving up ice in the winter. They should be giving up portions. They should be giving up portions of the oblast that they've taken, 2 of which they haven't taken completely, and it's unclear. Do they get the remainder of those oblasts, or do they remain in Ukrainian hands? But if they remain in Ukrainian hands, that's not giving anything back. The Ukraine won those in war the way Russia won what it won. I have a feeling Russia wants to complete those oblasts and take what they didn't get in war. But in any event, Ukraine's getting ugats. A small portion around Kharkiv. I don't know what portion they have around Kharkiv. Kharkiv has uniformly, and I know Kharkiv, I helped to build the emergency management center there. Every time they've tried to take Kharkiv, and they've destroyed that beautiful city, they've been unable to take it. And the story of that is they used to love Russia, the people in Kharkiv. They would have voted for Putin to take over, except the murderous bastard came in 2014 and started killing him. He forgot. Mayor went to war against him. Mayor won, but the mayor lost his legs. I mean, we got to stop this. I mean, you got to know who you're dealing with. You can smile at him. You can bullshit him, but don't buy it. The guy is a pathological murderer, Putin. That doesn't mean you can't negotiate with him. It means you better never lose sight of that. Ukraine will get the navigation rights into the Dnieper River, which runs along the front lines. They have that right now. And they have access to the sea right now. And they'll get assistance in post-war rebuilding. Don't know what that means. They don't get very much. I agree, Rudy does, who is much stronger on Ukraine than at least half of the administration. I agree that Russia should get Crimea. It makes no sense. Crimea wants to be part of Russia. The rest in between is up for grabs. We just don't know. There's the map as it exists right now. The dark portion is controlled by Ukraine. The light portion in there is water and roads. And the pinkish portion is the portion that is controlled by Russia. Now, Russia had, and Crimea is in black, and I don't exactly know why, since that is Ukraine, but Crimea is probably the most occupied by Russia. Crimea really was won in 2014. And Crimea, and a lot of these people voted, and there's a lot of question about the integrity of the vote. The vote in Crimea is legitimate. Crimea is Russian. They like to be Russian. And they didn't have to do warfare there, so they didn't turn them off like up in Kharkiv. So here's what a deal that would not be pointed to as a big Putin win and an embarrassing Trump loss. And that would be if they had to give back the areas pretty much adjacent in each one of the oblasts. Luhansk at the top there, right? Let's go through them with me. Luhansk, right? Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. You'll see little, not all. Luhansk is all Russian, but in Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, you'll see little black areas. Those black areas have not been conquered by the Russians. They're right now under Ukrainian hands. They should remain that way. And about another 4 to 5% of what Russia has in the pink area should be returned without disturbing materially the land bridge to Crimea, which is Putin had 3 objectives when he started back in 2014: get Crimea, get access to Crimea unhindered by Ukraine, and then take the rest of Ukraine. So people forget he's lost his third one. So this will be painted as a victory for him. He's only getting 20% of Ukraine, only. How would we like it if somebody got 20% of the United States? So given the fact that he didn't win everything that he wanted, and going on with this war, if we didn't care about human life, it's going to ruin them and Ukraine. I mean, they're going to go completely broke if they go through another year of war, the Russians. And why we don't say that, and we're going to walk away from it and then just fight. Go ahead, just fight. If you look at each one of these territories, we should be able to crawl back 5% or so of that total territory. So they would have taken 15% of Ukraine rather than 20. And we should take those that have mineral rights and properties. Overall concept: 2/3 of the mineral rights and the other unusual items that we need really to stay current with China are in the Ukrainian part of Ukraine. That deal, in fairness, now Zelensky's holding up on that, and that I got to tell you, that is pissing Trump off, and also allowing the people that are anti-Ukraine to get control of the argument. And Zelensky's being a complete jackass over that. When he said you don't have any cards, he meant you don't have any cards. If we don't support him, if we walk away and we don't support this, how long is Europe going to support it? 3 days. And how much more of Ukraine will Russia take? So Zelensky, and plus the financial deal with the United States, will help to overcome the political problem of supporting Ukraine, which Americans are starting to see as, what's the point of it? Zelensky doesn't even know what happened to 100 billion of the money. I know what happened to it. So you take 5% out of that pink area, do it in a way that you still keep your road to Crimea. And now you're talking about something that looks like a little more of a even deal rather than a defeat for Ukraine and the United States. And something that also creates a little more assurance about this war continuing. And I really do think there has to be the possibility of American support if Russia double crosses them. Maybe it could be secondary support. Maybe it could be, I hate that, no troops on the ground, because basically tells everyone you're a big coward and you're afraid to do anything. But we're going to have to, we can't just leave if they're giving up so much. But look, Zelensky deserves it. The people of Ukraine don't deserve this. You got to separate the both. And you're not asking for a lot if you're saying to Russia, we want 5%. You took 20%, we want 5% back. And we've got a pretty good idea where the 5% is. You want to make alternatives, fine. Let's deal. Oh, by the way, getting the area around Kharkiv, stuff that up your murderous backside. Because you tried to win Kharkiv on the battlefield 3 times and you got your ass kicked in. Leave those people alone. They're my people. I'll come and fight with you. So I think the U.S. peace plan is a U.S.-Russian peace plan, 3/4, 1/4 Ukraine. It isn't that Ukraine lost completely here. They did preserve 80% of the country, so they should get something for that, huh? Iran. Again, a question has arisen. At first, it seemed to be a tactic. Now it seems to be a reality. And that is to negotiate an agreement with Iran. That's exactly what Obama did. And I don't care what the terms are in the agreement. The reason we all oppose the agreement and the reason that Trump overdid it, you can't trust Iran. Iran has become no more trustworthy. It just has become a lot more vulnerable. What, do you want to save it? I don't know who the hell is advising the president on this one, but they don't know Iran. They don't know the Ayatollah. This is 45 years of appeasement policy with the Ayatollah, one administration after the other, and millions of people dead, including the guy killed Americans. He killed Americans. And he's exhorting his people to kill Americans in the future. Every Friday, end of prayers, death to Israel, death to America. Biden gives him money back, death to America. The minute we make this deal, as soon as it's over, it'll be death to America. There's something wrong, seriously wrong here. Israel is ready to take out their nuclear facilities. That's the only thing that's going to make the world safe. You cannot make a deal with certain people. Not often. Sure was true in Munich, right? Yeah, they walked away with peace for 6 months. And then the biggest war in the history of the world. You really think if you make an agreement with them that they're not going to, behind your back, take the 3 or 4 more steps they need so they can put themselves on a par with Israel, which they're so afraid of? You really think they need nuclear power? They're one of the most energy-rich. They don't need nuclear power at all. The only deal that you should make is that you get to destroy every one of their facilities and send your people in to inspect the entire country. And we get to destroy them. Get the people out, put the bunker buster bombs in, and take them all out. And then do a massive inspection that they're all gone. You can't let them promise inspect. I mean, it's the same old. It's remarkable because Trump ran against the Obama deal, overturned it, ran against it again. That's where it sounds like a certain faction in his administration is heading. I will say, with all due respect, you don't know what the hell you're doing with Iran. There comes a time when you got to be hard-headed and real. And if we end up with anything like what these two things are suggesting, we're going to lose the Reagan factor. We're going to lose the fear that we follow through. It's going to sound like we just threaten until a couple of isolationists come in and say, oh my gosh, we can't. Oh, we can't do that. We can't. Oh, no, we can't. Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. Didn't we have enough of that with Biden and Obama? You don't keep the world safe from homicidal maniacs by kissing their backside, whether it's Putin, the Ayatollah, or Z. I'm going to tell you, as the most successful person in eliminating organized crime, you don't do it by negotiating with them. And these people are worse than organized crime. Well, tonight, we're going to have an event at the Trump Towers, and there was an attack there yesterday. Some creep went there and attacked it.
That's right. We have the footage too.
Unbelievable.
He spray painted it, right?
Yeah, he spray painted it and then made all kinds of nasty remarks. What does that mean, climate activists? You want spring to come to end faster?
Yeah, I hate how the
Climate change is ridiculous. Yes, there's climate change in about 2/3 of the world. In about 1/3 of the world, you don't feel it because it's too damn warm.
He's a petty criminal. He's committing vandalism on somebody else's property. I don't like that they call him a climate activist. It's not a, even if,
He probably didn't go to jail.
Yeah, a climate. This guy's a bum in a t-shirt, spray
people,
painting over a Trump
you
sign.
realize none of the Tesla people are going to jail. The Chicago and other.
I'm going to mute him. I'm not letting him get his message out.
Soros DAs are all letting them all out.
Right. Here's the quote, the media, the climate activist, as they call him. I refuse to call him that. He's a bum in a t-shirt who's committing vandalism.
The guy in Minneapolis who was doing the Teslas, he's a government employee there in Tim Walz's state, and they didn't do anything to him.
Yeah, and the judge gave him no time.
Yeah.
Here's the climate activist. This guy's he's a petty criminal. Unhinged. Narcissist too, right? He wants the pictures. So he gets dragged. And these guys are way too nice. I guess you got to be with all the cameras there, right? You can't get too hands-on. I guess he's not posing an immediate threat. I kind of talked to him here. We would have picked him up and thrown him out head first, like the movie Elf.
I tell you, he's not much. Look at him; he's no trouble in. Remember, we keep watching all these. It almost look like cops don't know how to put handcuffs on anymore, right? Everybody, you get 14 cops involved. This guy here is like wimpy pimpy.
Yeah, this guy there, just like
my hand.
He ain't fighting back. He's like, all right,
I ain't fighting back.
I got my Instagram post.
That's from an expert.
Yeah. Where do you go in a situation like this? Where does this guy go in a situation like this, man?
He goes to court.
He gets a desk appearance ticket,
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah.
So what? They walk him outside and he goes free.
Well, a desk appearance ticket under the Cuomo laws are. It's like getting it's like one of those little medals that Millie used to put on his.
Yeah.
You know where Millie had the medals from here,
right
down to his ass.
So basically, Ted, what happens is NYPD will arrest him, take him to the precinct, and they'll give him it's called ROR, release on your own reconnaissance, because it's not a high level crime. So he has to show up to court on his own. Exactly.
We'll have a camera ready. We'll have a camera ready.
Yeah, so he has to show up to court.
Maybe we'll have him on tomorrow.
This crime is so low that the judge believes this perp will show up on his own, so they don't have to put bail. They don't have to put bail on him because it's such a low level crime.
Do you guys take issue with the way the media is calling him a climate activist? That's almost giving him more. This guy's not a climate activist. The guy's in a t-shirt. He's spray painting over a sign.
Why would a climate activist have to spray paint in somebody's building?
Right. If you're a climate
activist, exactly what does a climate activist do? Remind us that it's spring?
Right. Yeah.
All they do is piss people off. They glue their hands to the streets and block traffic in the name of what? I don't know.
Well,
but all bullshit.
I've never understood the designation climate change. Anyway, of course it changes.
Well, there was a time when climate activists would at least climb trees and sit in the tree, and that actually
climate change is because every time they think the Earth is going to get so warm, it's going to disappear. I think Gore's predicted it 3 times. It gets colder.
Oh yeah.
Pete Hegseth has become the cause celeb for the Trump haters and for the and for the communists, and it may be that he's doing too good a job of changing the Pentagon.
Right. I think
the
it's
military. He actually wants to get him to fight. And he's going to do away with the 1 week drag queen retreats. And you don't have to have a drag queen in your bunker. Nor do you have to have a 5'2" woman fighting next to you when you're 6'2", might get shot. And even though you're shot, you're going to have to carry her back. Let's stop all the woke bullshit. And let's talk about what the military really is. They're killers. They're trained, civilized killers in order to keep us safe. And that's why they join the military, the ones who can do it. Trump is doing a good job going after these universities. They're now considering having transparency on all the money that universities get from foreign governments, so we can find out the possibilities of traitors in these universities. You see a lot of money from China, you're going to have traitors. What do you think China's putting the money in for? To increase intellectual awareness and knowledge for the whole world? Trump also has a bunch of other. He's got like 55 more universities to go, and I don't think Harvard's going to slow him down very much. Cornell backed down, by the way. Cornell was going to have Kalani appear. Did I show you Kalani? Let me see if we have. Oh, there's Kalani right there. That's Kalani. She's against Israel. She wants the destruction of the state of Israel. She's propagated a map with Israel not existing. She's in favor of the elimination of the Jewish people. She was a fan of October 7. She says horrible things about the Jewish people, about Israel, pretty bad things about the U.S. And she was going to be their main entertainment for their graduation at Cornell. And it was done 3 weeks ago, and the president of Cornell announced a day or two ago that it was too late to cancel, even though it was done 3 weeks ago. Apparently, it wasn't too late to cancel. It just got canceled. I want to see Harvard cave in because, we made a big mistake last year when we made Columbia the biggest Jewish-hating university of the Ivies. Harvard is the biggest by far, without any doubt. They're going back to what they used to be for most of their existence, which is Jews need not apply. With their history of anti-Semitism, which is disgraceful, they have some nerve not doing going beyond to eliminate it now. And it is going to be important to have all these universities disclose under penalty of under criminal penalties where they're getting their foreign money, because I want to see how many enemies of the United States give them money and what they do for it, and how much of their faculty is working against us. Well, we're going to sign off now for the evening, and we'll be back with you tomorrow at 7 on Mike Lindell TV. We'll be back on X, and then we'll be here at 8 o'clock on X, and we'll get you up to date on all these things that are going on, including the 3 things that are in flux right now that should be concerning us, namely the tariffs, how they're going to get resolved. Looks like they're going to get resolved. And it's starting to look like, although Ted and I were betting on, I was betting on UK and you were betting on, it looks like India might be number 1. That's the rumor, at least. And we'll see what happens. Any more progress on the Trump flagpoles? He's going to put up 2 new flagpoles on either side of the White House that are really, really tall and go way above. They'll go way above the White House itself. Here they are. Let's show it to people as we sign off, and ask people to pray for the Ukraine, and to pray for Israel, and to pray for Iran, the countries we just talked about. Pray for us. Pray for America. Pray for our being able to execute real common sense and not forget the lessons of the past like appeasement. It can happen so easily. And I may be wrong, and I may be overreacting, and I hope I am. But I think it's worth pointing this out because we're at too much of a crossroads to be this much wrong. So we'll see you tomorrow. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans.
But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply